KCAA Loma Linda.
My name is Dan Reddick here today with the Real Men of Real Estate on KCAA Radio out of Redlands. You can find us on your dial at 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, as well as 106.5 FM. Today, we're going to be talking with a friend of mine, Spencer, about his foray into real estate investing and kind of lay out how a regular Joe gets down the road and gets started in this. He's got a great story and broken down a lot of barriers to get there. So welcome, Spencer.
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being here. Honestly, it's great. I'm super excited to catch up and hear more about your projects since we haven't had a chance to talk about that much lately. So
Yeah,
why don't you just start off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
yeah. So I'm Spencer Reisman. I have been doing real estate for, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 years. We could probably get into it later. I don't know really
Yeah.
when to say I officially started it. So I'll get into more of that when we talk about
Okay.
my story a little bit. But yeah, I've been doing real estate for a few years, just kind of chipping away at it. I do work full time as a web designer. So to me, it's just kind of something I'm trying to build in my spare time and hopefully transition to something much more full time when I can make that happen.
That's pretty amazing. I like it. What do you do in your free time?
So outside of kind of poke around looking at real estate, um, got a dog and a wife, and we just kind of like to hang out. We live in San Diego, so weather's always beautiful, and spend time hanging out around the city. We like to travel. My wife actually works in the airline industry, so um, love to travel. She has family in South America. We go there a couple times a year if we can, if there's not like a pandemic or anything.
Right.
Um, and and yeah, I mean, anything creative generally I'm drawn to. That's how I got into web design in the first place.
Okay, I see.
Started
Right.
as a graphic designer,
Uh-huh.
and nobody really does print stuff anymore, so it just kind of moved into web design. And um, I think that's kind of my draw into real estate as well. Is it's just like there's so many different ways of being creative with it. So anything creative, I'm generally interested in.
Right on. Oh, that'll serve you really, really well in real estate, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so at this point, you're mostly interested in rental properties, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I did try a flip last year. Right now, I'm doing rental properties, um, long-term rentals,
Okay.
and
What
yeah.
part of the what part of the country are those in?
So right now, I have two properties, and they are located in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's my hometown, actually.
Okay.
Haven't lived there for a long time, but I still comfortable with the town at least and the
Uh-huh.
area, and it's cheap. Like I said, I live in San Diego, so um, that's kind of what drew me to that market. I'm
Got
well
it.
aware of how much houses cost here, so that was like to me the gateway was to get in over there.
Okay. So what kind of a city is that? What could you describe the market a little bit?
Oh man, that's a strange question actually. I never even like I don't know. People probably spend a lot of time researching markets and I
They
didn't.
do, yeah.
I know they do. And I didn't really because to me it was like um to me, I just felt like I could research all day long and I could probably find 100 markets across the country and 100 different reasons to get into each of them, right?
I think you're right.
Um,
Yeah, that's a super true
so,
statement.
and I also have like, I'm looking at this market in a different lens, right? Because like my primary reason for getting in Fort Wayne, Indiana was that I already knew the town.
Hmm.
Um, so as far as like market statistics, I don't know what to really tell you. If you have like a more specific question, I could maybe answer it,
Well,
but
sure.
maybe I can't.
What's the population like?
Okay, so I believe they're maybe around like a quarter million
Okay, that's pretty good
now.
sized.
Yeah. So it's like a city, second biggest city in Indiana for
Hmm.
what it's worth.
Okay, that matters.
Um,
Yeah.
I tell people that a lot of times it doesn't matter. Anytime I meet somebody from Indiana, they tell me where they're from, and 9 times out of 10, I don't know where that place is, whatever they say to me. Because there's
Sure.
just so many like little towns, and even like the surrounding towns around Fort Wayne. Like my realtor would be like, "Oh, I saw a deal in such and such," and I'm like, "Where's that?" And it's like, "It's 30 minutes away, man." I'm like, "Oh, no, I don't know." Like, I
Right.
never went there. I mean, I moved out when I was 18,
Sure.
and never lived in Indiana again. So I was like, well, during the 2 years that I could drive myself in Indiana, like if I didn't go there, I don't remember it.
Yeah, I
But
can
yeah,
relate to
so
that.
it's a city. It's like a quarter million people, and I would say it's mostly middle class.
Hmm.
Um, it's got its good sides and bad sides, like anything else.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the major employers in town? Is there like a,
Mm.
car manufacturer, or is there any other like major sources of employment?
There are like factories, and gosh,
Okay.
now I'm not going to be able to say these off the top of my head,
Oh,
but
that's fine. That's fine. So but it's
there
made of
are
some factories.
a very large medical equipment manufacturer nearby that I can't remember the name of. I think the Johnson and Johnson family is like
Oh,
from
okay.
there. They have houses there or something. Yeah, but gosh, man, I don't know. I can't really tell you a ton about the market
That's okay. Just
because
try to.
it wasn't something that really like affected my decision. I knew enough that I could get a house there. I knew people rented houses there,
Hmm.
and I knew approximately how much people would pay to live there.
Right.
And so for me, it just came down to running numbers on deals,
Uh-huh.
right?
Right.
And it didn't matter to me where these people were working or anything like that because I also wasn't like when I started investing there, I wasn't super concerned with the scalability of what I was doing there. I
Right.
just wanted to get going. And I
I,
never thought like this is the market I choose and this is the market I'm now going to be scaling in
uh-huh.
over the next 10 years. It wasn't like that. It was like I know that I could get a few houses here and I could make a little bit of money off of them.
Right. And it's going to be
So
it's a stable town with sufficient employers. You were familiar with it already, so
yeah,
why not?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that's really refreshing to hear because, I've certainly been to a lot of classes myself over the years and talked to a lot of people who are analyzing the perfect rental opportunity city, right? So
Hmm.
far down that they never do anything. And you went out there and said, I know a place, the rents make sense to the purchase prices, and I'm going to do something and not sit on the sidelines. Like that's great. I respect that so
Yeah, to
much.
me, it's never been about finding the perfect place, the perfect deal, the perfect opportunity. Because the reality is I think you could go into almost any town in America and be like, and ask yourself, is there a real estate investor making money in this town? And the
Hmm.
answer is always going to be yeah,
Every
somebody's
single
making
time.
money
Yeah,
here.
every single time.
Somebody's making money here. So if they can do it, I can do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, yeah, to me, like looking at the other factors were much more important to me. Like, do I have a support network there?
Right.
And the answer to me was yes. No, I found that, despite what you may think, you're still doing a lot of it. But despite how big your support network is, but
Sure.
that's another story.
That makes sense. I get it. Wow. Well, that's really neat, honestly. Pretty cool how you got into it. I can't tell you the number of people who come to my real estate club or that see what I post on social media sometimes and are still talking about how to talk about it or, how to analyze a deal two, three,
Hmm.
5 years later, crazy. That's pretty neat. Good for you. I love it.
Yeah, and I gotta say, like, I'm really not like a spur of the moment, like fly by the seat of my pants kind of guy. Like I do put a lot of thought into these things. It's just like
Okay.
I'm maybe putting thought into different things and not necessarily like hard numbers or something like that,
Right.
statistics.
You wanted to get a good feel and you want to accomplish your goals,
Yeah.
not solve a statistics issue.
Yeah, I didn't just dive right in. It wasn't like I woke up one day and was like, I'm
Yeah.
buying houses somewhere else. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's pretty neat. I mean, that's such a different take than what we see on TV, and what you kind of, if you ever run across the ads for real estate investing, and just flip houses now, make all the money in the world, and it's a lot of work.
Totally. And it's a lot
Yeah.
of different from what you hear even on like podcasts and stuff. I listen to so many podcasts and sometimes it's difficult to listen to stuff like that because
Yeah.
if it doesn't resonate with what you're doing, it's inspiring, but that doesn't necessarily mean it resonates with like what you're doing or how you feel about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I never thought about it quite like that. You're totally right, and I guess that's kind of the irony of what I want to try and bring to people with this radio show is kind of what it really is, and not something that's sugar coated or follow these 10 steps and now you're a real estate millionaire. It's So that's I'd never really thought about how it resonates in, quite like that. That's neat. That's a great perspective. Wow.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
what's the maybe most interesting or biggest difference from what you expected to what you found so far?
Dan, these weren't on the list of questions you sent me. Yeah, you're making me think here, man. I guess it would be just the amount of time some of these things take,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
They
a lot of
don't
time.
move quickly, and you're dealing with people's houses here, so it's not like you know things just move much slower, and it's
Hmm.
it's a little different from like coming from like web design. Then it's just like I
Right,
can
everything's
put up a
super quick.
website, a simple website in like a couple weeks, but things just move a lot more slowly.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and you hear about like these examples of people saying that like, oh, I scaled from, up to 20 properties in my first 6 months. And it's like, sometimes it doesn't
How?
happen that fast.
Yeah, I don't know how people do that. I mean, and
Yeah.
we can talk a little bit more about that after the break, but we're gonna have
Yeah.
to do our commercial break here in just a quick second. So thanks for
Okay.
joining me today. This is a great conversation. I really love hearing about how you got down and got into this. So with that, my name's Dan Reddig. I'm here with Spencer today talking about his real estate journey as he ramps up into his next career uh, on the Real Men of Real Estate. So you can find us on KCAA Radio out of Redlands, and we'll be right back.
I love how New School is able to help me greatly with my career
because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about New School is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group. supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections. Hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. FireUp Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. FireUp Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find us on your dial at 1050 AM, 102.5 FM, and 106.5 FM. And we've been talking today with Spencer about how he's looking at life a little different and interested in getting into real estate. So welcome back, Spencer.
Thank you.
I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about how did you choose real estate investing? You know, what's the overarching impetus here that started driving you down this path?
Sure. So, money.
Absolutely.
Money. It's a good starting point. Honestly, I think it was just kind of like one thing after another, right? Like all these things just like slowly transition and all. I could kind of like walk you through that, but I think like the overarching like reason for it is just like my entrepreneurial spirit, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And like I say money jokingly, but at the same time, like anybody in my family would probably like laugh and like nod their head at that, just because like I've always been like the like more like money-minded one in the family, right?
Okay.
Like people know that like I'm a saver. You know, new ways of earning money excite me and interest me.
Right.
Right. So anytime like somebody wants to talk about like a business idea, I'm usually like the one to get like super into that conversation, right? Just because I
got it.
I find it interesting. I find commerce and all that just very interesting. But
certainly
so
explains
like,
some of our conversations and also your friendship with Eric as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very like-minded people, which I'm drawn to because my family is not full of those types of people. So I have to get my fix elsewhere.
Absolutely.
But so like more specifically, I do like I want to tell you like how I kind of ended up here because I think it's interesting that really I got interested in stocks back when I lived in Chicago at my very first job out of college.
Okay.
My boss was always like looking at stocks and stuff, and I didn't know anything about it. Like when I say like I'm the only one in my family that thinks like this, but like that's true. And as a result of that, like I never received any sort of information or education on money or stocks or capitalism or commerce or anything like that. Like we just didn't even talk about it in my house. It wasn't taboo. It just wasn't, it wasn't a topic. And so I learned a bit about stocks from him and just started investing because he kind of said like, man, I've only been doing this for 15 years. If I had gotten into it in my 20s, like, at your age, like, man, like you have so much potential if you just start putting a little bit of money in now.
Yeah, time is the great equalizer, right?
Yeah. So at one point I read this book. It's called Quit Like a Millionaire. And basically, the author is just like something I saw mentioned on Yahoo Finance, right? Because I'm just looking at stocks in the morning.
Sure.
Like, and I'm not like a big time investor. I just find it interesting. If I drip maybe $50 a month, then like that's good for me. But this lady, Christy Shen, so she had this book, Quit Like a Millionaire, and she just talks about putting money in index funds. It's like very simple sort of style investing. And her and her husband saved up enough money that they were getting passive income from dividends and whatever else. enough to quit their jobs at age 33 and travel the world. I'm like, wow,
Fire.
that sounds great to me, right?
Yeah.
But in that book, she kind of like, I don't want to say like she hates on real estate. She definitely like voices like that in her opinion, like real estate is something to avoid. It's not for this
Fascinating.
financial freedom
Okay.
path that she promotes, right? So
Okay.
that was very interesting that I say that's how I got started in real estate, is by hearing this woman say that real estate is not the path towards financial freedom. But
that struck a chord with you. Now you're interested.
now I'm interested, but more so because she talks about financial freedom, and I'm like, what financial freedom? Like I've never really heard
Right.
like that term before.
Fire. Right.
So on her blog, I think, which I started reading a little bit, she interviews this guy, Craig Curlop. Craig Curlop is part of the Bigger Pockets family, and he has this book called The House Hacking Strategy.
Oh, I'm familiar.
So I'm like, cool, that's interesting. Let me read that book. It seems to be about real estate. Like she doesn't like real estate, but this guy does. Like, how interesting. So he talks about house hacking. Meanwhile, we have a roommate.
For our listeners, what is house hacking?
House hacking is like to maybe buy like a duplex or a house with multiple bedrooms, and you're basically filling those rooms and hopefully paying for all or at least some of your mortgage.
Okay. So
with
a way of covering your
rental
costs.
Income.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, we live in San Diego. Housing is incredibly expensive here. I wasn't covering my mortgage, but we got a roommate. And as I'm reading this book, I'm like, wow, I'm already doing this house hacking thing. I just called it having a roommate.
Right.
Right? Because it's really expensive here. And my wife and I had recently bought a condo.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, which ended up being a good investment decision. And we knew that like we couldn't really cover the full monthly mortgage, but we could get a roommate.
Right.
We had previously done Airbnb out of like an apartment that we rented here in San Diego, just renting out the second bedroom on Airbnb like years ago when Airbnb was very new still.
So you've really been a real estate investor for a long time.
Yeah, and like so I started like this concept was like, oh, like house hacking, this is real estate investing. And I'm like, well, I never really thought about it that way, but like investing just in general is interesting and appealing to me. So that's kind of what like led me down this whole path in the first place. Once I like realized like, well, I'm kind of already doing this. It sounds like I just need to get more serious about it if I want to like seek out these other opportunities that lie within.
Okay, I gotcha. That's really fascinating. Wow.
Yeah.
So what came next? Go ahead.
I guess what came next was I started having like pain in my arms because I work at a desk all day. And I ended up with this like workers' comp case and just like being in pain a lot, like every day. Yeah.
That's brutal. I mean, living with pain. Wow.
Right. It's yeah, it's a thing a lot of people deal with, and like you don't really, I guess, understand it until you also are dealing with it. But so it was like it was rough dealing with that, but at the same time, it kind of like lit a fire under me to say like I need to start maybe looking at other ways of like creating an income for myself, because it's like sitting at a computer all day is not, it's not going to be sustainable. Like this isn't going to just magically go away. And even with the physical therapy and all that and the doctors, and yeah, I've been going through it. It's been years, but I realized like there, you know, like, so you just gotta, I guess, take charge and like figure it out, right? Because like the doctors aren't going to solve that problem for you. They're going to try and help you with the pain, but they're not going to find you a new job.
Right.
So I was like, I'm kind of already interested and like, you know, looking into this real estate thing, like maybe I should start considering this as more of like an actual career path, which it has not yet become. And that, I think that goes back to like me saying that like it's not always like you listen to these podcasts and all that, or at least for me, I listened to so many like trying to learn about real estate investing, right? And I got super like absorbed by it all.
It's almost too much sometimes. Like it just keeps you
Yeah,
straying from idea to idea, and it's hard to take action.
totally. And like I got into this mindset of thinking like all this needs to be done very quickly, right? Because other
Hmm.
people are doing it very quickly and my arms hurt and I just need to like get going on this as fast as possible. Um, which makes it more scary, I think. You know, like people like
A
they
lot of
talk about
pressure.
like the analysis paralysis where like people
Hmm.
can't jump into their first deal or whatever. I think it's that, it's the pressure, like you just said. Um, it's the pressure that we put on ourselves to kind of like try and like match up to all these examples that we see on TV or hear about on podcasts.
Right. Yeah, I've
And
done
it's
that.
not that easy.
No,
It's not
it's
easy at all.
and so many
So,
times you find out somebody who's jumped into real estate and they went from, 0 to 20 houses in the first 18 months or whatever, had, experience before in business running companies, or they owned a couple restaurants or something else where they had to manage a lot of people and resources, and they understood how to read a P&L and L and put it together and what does a deal structure look like. And if you haven't done any of that stuff before, boy, it's daunting and there's so much to learn.
and that's the majority of us, right? As
I
real
think it's
estate
normal,
investors,
yeah.
we're normally coming from somewhere else.
Hmm.
Um, so, you know, and that's the side of it they don't really talk about either, is like those sorts of things, like the paperwork, the P&Ls and all of
Yeah.
that. It's like, you know, they talk about building your team and all that, and it's like,
Your core
there's
four and
just
all that.
yeah, but there's
Yeah,
just so much other little stuff. It's like, it's not just finding deals and buying
right.
houses, it's running a business. So
Yeah.
you have to be prepared to like learn how to really be an entrepreneur.
I think that's, yeah, well said. And it's so much more involved than anybody would realize. Um,
And I'm still figuring it out. Like I
but
don't
I th
pretend to have the answers to these things.
yeah, I think it's kind of it's a career-long journey once you get into it. Every time I think I know a whole bunch about a particular niche, then somebody says something else, and I have to question what I know.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
very humbling. Wow,
It
that's
is.
amazing. I mean, that's really amazing. I love hearing about that and how you're getting through it. So we're going to take a quick break though. So I'm Dan Reddick. This is Spencer Reisman on the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio out of Redlands. I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am, and we'll talk to you guys in a couple minutes.
I love how New School is able to help me greatly with my career.
Because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about New School is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
This is for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find us at 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or 1050 AM on your dial. So thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Dan Reddick, and I'm here with Spencer Reisman, and just talking about his journey into real estate here. So really fascinating in that last segment to hear how you got to real estate through someone pushing stocks who doesn't like real estate. That's a pretty fantastic story, Spencer.
Yeah, it's funny how that kind of works out sometimes. But
It is, yeah.
I don't
So,
know. I think that's human nature, right? As soon as somebody says don't do it, you're well, like,
right.
oh yeah, why?
Is the stove hot? Well, let's find out, right?
Yeah, it's hot.
Well,
It
yeah, right.
is.
I have no fingerprints and the stove is hot. Well, so you're in it now. You're doing it. I know you've got your first property in Indiana a couple of years ago. Um, how's that one going?
Um, meh. Well, so the stove is hot. It caught on
Uh-oh.
fire.
Oh, that's the one that
Yeah,
caught on fire? Oh
that was
no.
my first one. Um, so yeah, this was all, oh man, 2020,
Boy, that's a year to
eventful
remember, huh?
year, eventful year, obviously. So we had sold our condo, um, made money off of it, actually to a realtor who was like well known in our neighborhood. Um, and sold it to him, was able to take profit from that, got our roommate to move with us, and
Wow.
bought a house right at the beginning of the pandemic, which was nice to have a house and not a condo.
Oh man.
But
Yeah.
but still, just like after all this research, like learning to like leverage financing
Hmm.
as much as possible. So still put like the minimum, like 5% down on this new house. And then took just what was left over from the condo sale and I bought a triplex in Indiana. So that was like my first like rental property. And this was already after like, I don't know, probably like 2 years of reading books, listening to podcasts and all that, right? So this
Right.
wasn't just like I heard about this and jumped in. Like, no, we're talking like 2 years later now. So like I get like some people it takes them a while. Some people do just jump right in and good for them. But for me, it was a couple years, and that triplex, kind of like a lower class of building and
Okay.
tenants, I would say. The plan was always to like hopefully, fix it up and make it nicer and all that.
Okay.
But yeah, like to the fire story,
Yeah,
last
let's dive
fall,
right in.
yeah, sure. So like last fall, I got a just like a text saying like, "Hey, are you the owner of such and such property?" And it's like late. My wife's like, "Don't answer that. It's a scam. Don't respond to that
That's
person."
what
I'm
I
like,
would have
"I don't
thought for
know."
sure.
Like she's like, "How would they know?" I was like, "These are public records. Like
Yep.
people can find this information." But anyway, so yeah, it turns out it caught on fire. Nobody was injured, but the
Oh,
building
thankfully,
did.
man.
Yeah, everybody was fine. And I have property management in place. Like that's one thing I think with out of state investing. Like, yeah, it stings to like pay them every
Yeah.
month, and they're like,
They're
you
what,
know,
10% of the rent?
they are 10%, and then they also like add 10% on any like work that's done on the
Oh,
house that
they
they
do one of
manage.
those, yeah. Hmm.
It stings, but at the same time, you get in a situation like this where it's like, that's not me there. Like I'm laying in bed just like texting my property manager, right? Like she's the one that's there, and there it's like late there. It's like 1 a.m. She's the one that's
Wow.
there, and it's like,
Money well spent all of a sudden.
yeah, really though, really. Um,
Wow.
and so everybody was fine. The fire really wasn't that bad. It has been an absolute nightmare because they're still working on this house. The
Well, that was last fall, right?
That was last fall.
Wow. What happened?
Um, like with the fire, or why isn't it
Yeah.
done?
Yeah. What's the holdup?
I think it was like just an electrical fire, it sounded like, but it's just poor management, I guess. And just like, people talk about like finding good contractors is hard to,
Yes,
everybody
I can
talks about that,
attest to
right?
that. Yeah, I can attest to that.
The insurance company offered to like hire they're like, do you want us to find somebody to fix this, or do you want to use your own contractor? It's like, you guys deal with it. I know what it's like trying to find contractors. And they hired like a big reputable company, but for whatever reason, they're just not living up to their reputation.
Oh, wow.
And it's just, one of those things, I guess. Once they start opening up walls and stuff, they find all kinds of stuff in this old house, but
Oh, right.
insurance doesn't cover those sorts of things. They
Oh,
cover the
man.
fire damage. So it's just kind of been one thing after another. And coincidentally, though, like right when this fire happened, I was entering escrow on a second rental property in Indiana.
Okay, so that's number 2.
So I had
All
this like,
right.
oh crap moment though, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't really know what's going to happen with this fire stuff. Like we're just
Right.
starting to like talk to the insurance company, but
How
I
much
got
money
this
do you need and all this other stuff
deal
for the
like
fire? Yeah.
I've already got earnest money down on this. Like, do I back out because I don't know where this is going, or do I just plow through and hope it's all okay?
Wow.
So
That's intense.
yeah,
Holy cow.
it was
Any sleepless
scary.
nights out of that one?
No, I sleep pretty good all the time.
Okay. Good for you.
Plenty
Gosh.
of stressful long days though. But yeah, lots of stress. But so anyway, I went through with the other deal still. The crew that I got on that, they were able to fix up that house and it's already rented and that thing's going already, but
Nice.
still
right.
working on that triplex, I guess.
Dang.
Yeah.
Do you own one unit in the triplex or the whole triplex?
Oh, I own the whole building.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay.
It's like an old like historic house. Actually, so that's like part of like
That
why it
sounds like
takes
trouble
long
right
is
there. Oh no.
part like it's like governed by like the historic society or whatever in Fort Wayne. So there's like, once people start coming over to inspect it, then everybody's got something to say about what's not right about it.
Oh
It's
no.
not just like fixing the fire damage. Now everybody's like, oh, this needs to be brought up to code, but you
Oh,
can't do
yeah.
it that way because it's not historical or whatever.
man.
So
That's
so
rough. That sounds hard.
it's hard. And it's hard, I think, more just like trying to like constantly answer the question like of like, am I doing this right? Like I think that's the biggest thing. Like it's all a mental thing, right? Like I'm here in California, like it's nice here. Like my pipes don't freeze. The pipes froze on the triplex, right? Because somebody didn't drain the lines. My pipes don't freeze here. It's
Right.
beautiful here. But like it's that mental game of like trying to communicate with people, across the country and like manage this whole thing. Like I haven't picked up a hammer. Like
hmm
but
in some ways,
it's
the
still
manual labor
really
would have been
difficult.
easier.
Yeah, I think so because then like you'd feel like you have more control over it. And I think that's been the hardest thing for me about like out of state investing is just like I am sort of like I like to keep like control over things anyways. I don't want to say
Okay.
like I'm a controlling person. That doesn't sound good, but I guess if you want to say it, like I wouldn't argue. So it's like it's that like not being able to keep as much control over it as I would like. Like that's the most difficult part of all this. And like people not like living up to the expectations, right? Because the way I see it is I have this money, I give it to you, and then you do what we agreed on, right?
Right.
But it's not always that
Sounds simple.
I
Yeah.
give you the money and then you don't show up, and then that's very frustrating. And then I feel like, it's like, what am I supposed to do then? Like, how do I not lose on this? And the fact is, like, sometimes you just lose, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's difficult to explain that to people. Like, when my realtor, who's also like, he helps me with like my real estate investing stuff because he's very like hands-on realtor. He's also my cousin in Indiana.
Oh,
When he
that's
asks
a great
me like,
resource
what's going
then.
on with your house? Why isn't it fixed yet? And like, all I can be like is, dude, I don't want to get into it right now. Like,
Right.
I don't want to explain to you all the stuff that's going wrong with this right now. Or like even like a family, like when my mother or my sister is like, hey, like, what's up with your house? Is it fixed yet? And it's just like, it's like that feeling of like putting your head down and be like, no, it's not fixed yet. Like, am I screwing up? Like, am I doing something wrong?
Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you're just running into trouble.
Sure, but maybe I am, maybe I'm not, like, it's like, I've listened to a lot of people talk about like taking ownership and accountability and all that. So it's like, that's,
same.
I want to, but at the same time, like, I get annoyed with these people that aren't doing their jobs, right? So
And what do you do if you take like the Jocko Williams approach, right? Of complete,
Exactly.
utter, total ownership, all
Yes.
other things be damned. It's like, what's possible then, or can I handle it? It's a lot.
Right. And hearing him say it, it gets you empty. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna take ownership. And then something like this happens, and you're like, these guys suck. So it's tough. It's that own like internal struggle, I think, of saying like, am I supposed to be taking ownership of this? Am I supposed to be blamed, like holding somebody else accountable? Because like,
Which is still taking ownership. You're still doing what you're supposed to do.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough set of circumstances, man. Wow.
Yeah, but I think so that's like it's thrown me into these situations of I don't think I have the answer yet. It'll probably be a few more months when I can kind of look at it more
Right.
retrospectively.
And
And then,
you've got the experience to know.
yeah,
I think that's the key, though. You jumped and did something, and now you're making it happen, learning the lessons.
right.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Well, we've got to take a break. Thanks so much for sharing that. That's really an incredible part of your story. I didn't know anything about that. So
Yeah.
thanks for that. On KCAA Radio, this is the Real Men of Real Estate, and we'll be right back.
I love how new school is able to help me greatly with my career.
Because they actually have experience working in the field.
The greatest thing about new school is the fact that there are so many different disciplines, which allows you to really understand and get a good insight into different types of design. And I think it's that whole changing mindset of what design can really do for a city, and this is kind of the place to be.
This environment cultivates creative thinking.
Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Welcome back to the Real Men of Real Estate here on KCAA Radio. You can find us at 102.3 FM, 106.5 FM, or 1050 AM. Continuing our conversation here with Spencer Reisman, and we were just talking about your first property you ever invested in that caught fire last fall. So you've been having a hell of a time working with contractors to get it back together. So where's it at now? Where are you going?
Yeah, so right now it's sort of just a juggling act of trying to get the various things wrapped up, the things that were supposed to be fixed this whole time due to the fire, and then the things that were uncovered when, either they found it when they opened up the walls or whatever, or like I briefly mentioned, like somebody didn't drain the lines and the pipes froze and just stuff like that.
Wow.
It is, I actually just talked to the neighborhood code compliance office this morning. There's a hearing in July. I don't think I'm supposed to be present for that. I wouldn't be as an out-of-state
Oh boy,
owner,
that could get exciting quick.
Anyway, it's supposed to be wrapped up now. They're basically like, they've been kind of like poking me saying like, hey, dude, you've had enough time on this. Like, we need to start like, it's nothing serious. The letters seem very serious, but then when I got on the phone with the lady, she's basically like, yeah, we just need to know if this is gonna be done anytime soon. So supposedly it is gonna be done soon. It should be wrapping up by the end of this month, but
that'd be great. Gosh.
Yeah,
You're still getting income replacement from the insurance company though, right?
Yeah, I am, which
good.
is like the only thing that saved me. Truthfully, I probably would have had to sell the property months ago if it weren't for that. Thank
big lesson to all our listeners about make sure that you've got the right insurance and the right amount.
Yeah, and that's one thing that like even like my property manager, like because my insurance told me that I wasn't responsible for those hotel stays for the when the tenants were displaced.
Mm.
And I told my property manager, I'm like, hey, these guys told me I wasn't responsible for this. And she's like, hey, I've been doing this a long time, and this is a lesson for me now that I need to be reviewing my owner's insurance policies as well.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, you never stop learning here. So
I mean,
anyway, it should all be wrapped up soon.
good news. Gosh, I hope it is for your
Yeah.
sake, and I hope the tenants, are they moving back in? Same tenant or?
No, new, better tenants.
Ah,
I haven't found them yet, but there will be new, better tenants.
good deal. All right. Well,
Yeah,
upward and onward, all that. I hope
yeah,
it. I hope this month is it.
I hope so
So,
too.
what are you working on next? You're gonna have all
Um,
this free time, right?
right. So I'm not really sure. I kind of like slowed things down a little because of all this, and I knew I didn't really have like money to invest anyway, and I didn't want to get too many open projects at once. I flipped a house last year remotely, and it was really stressful.
Oh
And I
wow.
realized I just kind of maybe had too much on my plate at
Yeah.
once. So
Yeah.
that was a learning experience for me big time. Didn't make money on that flip
Bummer.
and probably
Shoot.
lost a lot of hair, but a learning experience. And like, that's what I kind of just had to keep telling myself. So I've kind of slowed down. I know that I'm going to be trying to ramp things back up as this all kind of comes to a close. I am looking to still move more full-time into real estate and less full-time on web design. But I want to be, deliberate in the moves that I take.
Right. Yeah. Take these
Like I
lessons,
said
roll it
before,
up
like,
into an action plan.
yeah, maybe I didn't do all the market research and all that, but like I said before, like it wasn't just like a whim that I bought these houses, right? They were deliberate choices that I thought about. So my my focus time, research time just went towards other areas.
Got it.
But what I want to do right now is ideally look for maybe another single family home in Indiana once this wraps up. My wife and I are trying to look into getting an apartment in Colombia. So like that's where she's from.
Oh,
She
okay.
inherited a small amount of money, enough for maybe like a down payment on an apartment.
Okay.
Because rather than trying to get that money out of Colombia and to here,
I
we would
see.
take too big of a hit. And I would love to have like an apartment that we can use as like a short-term rental
Absolutely.
down there as well. Like to me, that interests me tremendously. Like I said in the beginning, like we really like to travel. So and going all the way back to like my Airbnb days when we rented our second bedroom out, like it's always been something that interests me. I think we did a great job when we hosted, and I've always wanted to get back into it since then.
Yeah, I share
So
that
yeah,
passion
like
with you. I'm eyeballing
yeah,
a couple right now.
yeah. So I would do it in San Diego too, but the cost of property here is crazy, and I don't really know what's going to happen with the short-term rentals here. But
They're this fall they're knocking it down from they're trying to take 10,000 of them off the market. And
yeah,
yeah, it's a 2-year lottery only, and it sounds like the hotel lobby got a hold of the
oh
city
yeah,
council. It's brutal.
not
It's
surprising.
really brutal. I can't imagine operating an Airbnb in town anymore. I just
Yeah,
can't see it.
but anywhere like in this part of the country would be very, very cool. I would love to. But so yeah, like I know those are like three pretty different
Mhm.
directions, but that's also like that's how I operate. I like to try new things and do
Yeah,
different things. Um, I
that's
don't.
exciting. Wow.
That to me is so much more exciting and interesting to me than trying to like scale up to 20 units over the next couple of years in Fort Wayne, which not opposed to it, but I'd love to do some of these other
Right.
things as well.
Well, and get some access to other markets and, spread out a little bit so you're not
Totally.
so exposed to one town. One of the major factories
Hmm.
closes, then what, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm a creative person. Like that's just who I am. So
Sure.
variety and try new things is what
Yeah,
appeals to me.
right on. Well, before we have to sign off today, where can people learn more about you, or how can they get a hold of you maybe?
I don't know that you can learn more about me outside of this radio show. It's my first one, and
All right.
so you can find me on Instagram, but you're mostly going to find travel photos. But if you want to look at my Instagram or message me on there. It'd just be at S Reisman, all no spaces or special characters, anything, just S Reisman, SRYSMAN.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Cool.
Or Gmail, spencer.reisman@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out to me.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I hope so. If folks are interested in getting into things or want to talk to you about what you're doing, that'd be really cool. So thanks for being here today. I really enjoyed the conversation. This is really interesting to hear about some of the details I hadn't learned about yet. Well, a lot that I hadn't learned about yet. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, now I need to go get an agent. So
perfect. Well, thanks again. And for the Real Men of Real Estate on KCAA Radio, have a great rest of your afternoon.
Wishing for a little bit more information? You'll get it all here on KCAA Radio.
John May